So we have a great many things to cover today. I'm going to try to keep it at a nice brisk pace, but I want Jared, Alessio, and Jake to chime in and mess with me, ridicule me, whatever we got. Keep it spicy. But
James, you're muted.
no, I'm not.
I'm here to help.
God, well, that did get me. So we're off to a good start. Okay, so where are we right now at Payload? I guess last week, was it last week? We released a very big breaking change. It was the last breaking change. It's not super hard to migrate from an earlier beta to the newer beta, but we wanted to take a second and just walk through like the reasoning and the thinking behind this breaking change and put a spotlight on the fact that this is the last breaking change that we expect for 3.0. And we're going to talk about the road to releasing stable. We're going to talk about some things that you may have missed that we have launched, some nice features. Paul, no more breaking changes, please. Please. No. But we're going to talk about some features you might have missed. We're going to talk about what we're going to launch yet before stable. We've got some bangers coming up. And yeah, but the first thing I just want to talk through is this component path change. So this is that big breaking change. It came out in beta 79, I believe, and it was a pretty big one, but there's a lot of very, very good reasoning behind what we did here. So since we launched Payload, literally since 0.0, we have been basically breaking the node rules a little bit because the Payload config, you could import CSS and you could import client files like SVGs and images and all kinds of stuff, like just unsafe node files. And that's why since the dawn of time, we've had like loaders for the payload config. So if you import the payload config, you need to do it safely. You need to be able to tell Node, hey, if you see a CSS import, please disregard that. If you see an SVG, don't worry about that file because we don't need it in Node. But most of you probably already know the config was used for both the admin panel and the server side. But with 3.0, we're trying to rectify the sins of our past. We're trying to remove all of the like breaking node rules that we were doing earlier by just making the config node safe. This is going to eliminate a ton of internal complexity. It already has. It's going to be able to make it so that we don't need to maintain our own config loaders. And so you can just import your config in any node script and just use it. And another big benefit of this was that now with this change, Next.js won't automatically bundle all of your client files if you import the local API. So a lot of you probably already know this was an issue. I opened up a pull request to Next.js that kind of short-circuited that logic. But it wasn't really, it's not something that Next.js was doing wrong. It was that Payload was importing client components and it was referencing them in the config, which counts as using them. And so we kind of had to work around that. I think, we work pretty closely with the Next.js team. We've been building a pretty good relationship where we've got direct access and we go back and forth quite a bit. And we really respect the work that they're doing. This isn't really something that Next.js was doing wrong. This is something that we had full control over fixing in Payload. And by making the config node only, that just adds predictability to the entire Payload stack. It's going to add maintainability. Future extensibility will be easier. And we're just doing things within the rules. That's the big thing. It means that the local API can now be used in significantly more places. You have a standalone script, you're using it in Astro, you're using it in SvelteKit. Wherever you're using it, it's going to be way easier to import it and to use it. So yeah, another cool thing, we do have a website template that we launched that I'll talk about in a second, but that website template uses the local API in React server components to fetch props. And that's 2 times faster to compile now with this change. If you import the local API and you use it inside of a React server component, it no longer has to compile all that extra client JavaScript that we didn't need anyways. So there's some pretty big benefits to that. And I want to take a second and show you some code about what the changes look like. So I'm going to zoom in a couple times here. This is the website template. You're probably pretty familiar with the website like template that we've had for a while. Like basically before login, we have a little component, and then before dashboard, we have a little component. Just kind of gives some helpful context to people logging into the website template. This is the new pattern for importing components. So before login, like prior to that change, you would just say my before login component, and you'd actually import your component and pass it, right? That's how payload has always worked. But now what we do is we just ask for a path to that component. And so it's not a node reference. Node does not import it. It doesn't look at it. It's just a string as far as node is concerned. And Ritsu from the Discord has some good ideas about maybe a TypeScript plugin that you could install in your TS config to be able to type these paths. Alessio, I know you are very passionate about losing import types. We already hired Ritsu, actually. He's starting tomorrow. So that's cool. Surprise. Yeah, we're very excited about that. We've got more coming too. Like I always say, we want to prioritize hiring from the open source community. And I mean, it's a no-brainer. Ritsu's blasting us with PRs, and we want to start prioritizing his work. So yeah, I didn't want to say that today, but I just did. So here we are. Everybody loves Ritsu. I do too.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, Zephyr, way to pull that out of us. Perfect. Yeah, we want to hire more of you guys. Let's do it, guys and girls. I shorten sentences.
I'm just waiting for my inbox to blow up after that comment now. So
do it.
Thank you.
We're coming up on the Series A, ladies and gentlemen, and when we get there, we're going to be hiring more. Ritsu was we're getting him on the team before Series A, but things in the payload world are going very well. We're in good shape to raise the Series A, and then we're going to hire more. But anyways, back to the components. Chris, you're on the radar. Yes, Chris is up there. Not Chris. Okay, yeah. So this is the new pattern. And no, so Celia, good question. Maintaining props and interfaces in two places. So this is the way to reference a component, but you can see below this, there's an alternative way to define custom props for custom components. So we know that a lot of you were making like higher order functions to render a component while passing that component props. So if it was like a plugin or something, here's the pattern that we've come up with for this. So this is the alternate syntax. You can either pass it just a straight up string, or you can pass it an object. And the object will take the path key, and then you can pass client props, which if it's a client component, it will get the client props. But if it's a server component, it will get the server props. So you can do all that in one place. Your plugins can define components and pass them props in a very easy way. This is better, I think, than what we used to have because it's more explicit and it's more strongly typed. So the only thing that you have to worry about is that client props need to be JSON serializable. They need to be able to be stringified as JSON, basically. So you can't pass functions to client components unless there will be a pattern for that. We'll talk about it. But yeah, client props need to be JSON serializable. Server props do not need to be JSON serializable. You can pass functions to server components. So with this pattern, you can keep everything in a nice, tidy bundle. You could take this, make it a const, and put it somewhere else. And then you have everything together. One thing, Jake, do you want to talk about your custom, the TypeScript interfaces?
Yeah, one change that we just made related to what you're talking about right now is everything has its own TypeScript type now. So if you have a server component or a client component on some custom component somewhere, it likely has an explicit type that you can throw on, and then all your props are going to be basically it.
Exactly. Okay, so Celia, in what cases would you go for the second signature? I mean, this component will take all the props that come by default from payload. So like, depending on if it's a server component, it's going to get payload, it's going to get a bunch of stuff in the props. But if it's a client component, it's going to get whatever normally would be rendered into that component. Yes. George, you have a new username. I think that's George, right? Fade Rautha Haroken. Dune reference. I love it. I love Dune. I can't believe not many people on my team have seen that yet, but those have seen it. Love it. Good screen name. Dune is not better than Lord of the Rings, though. So, Nate, God. Incorrect. Mark, thank you. Anyways, so yeah, if you like, mostly you're going to use this pattern if you have like plugins with custom components, because otherwise you could just hard code the components directly or the props directly in the component. But yeah, these props will be merged with the default props. So you'll be able to augment what gets traditionally passed. And this is all very, very heavily typed thanks to the work that Jake has been doing. So keep an eye out for that. Yes. All right. I think, yeah, that's the big breaking change right there. There's some small TypeScript changes elsewhere in that beta 79. But this is pretty much the last big breaking change for Payload 3.0. And I can speak for the team when we say that it is very relieving to have this done. Because from here on out, things are stable. We don't have to work through any more boulders, pushing boulders up hills. It's done. So, yeah. All right. So that's cool. That's a big one. No more breaking changes. Kind of already said that. Surprise. Yeah, Gustav, famous last words. There probably will be some small breaking changes, especially to like type interfaces and things like that. But really, I think we got through the bulk of it. So I'm feeling pretty confident. We're close to stable. We're just going to work on stability from this point on. We have new features, which I will get to, and they're very exciting. But I think that at this point, I mean, if you guys have been hanging out with us through this beta process, we have been slinging code left and right. And I mean, Alessio just like yesterday merged another big PR that I'll let him talk about in a second once we get to that. But yeah, Friday, we're going to publish only on Friday from this point on. Yeah, cool. So timeline to stable. As many of you probably already know, React 19 has a little debacle. I'm sure they're going to solve it in a nice way. It has to do with suspense, parallel suspense. And Next.js 15 is waiting on React 19. And Payload 3 is waiting on Next.js 15. And I love it. This is just a blast. I really love this. I think it's going to be solved pretty quickly. React 19 is making progress. They have an idea for how to solve their suspense issues. And I think that Next 15, there was a tweet the other day from Jimmy that mentioned that they're looking at an RC2. So that would kind of be good news for Payload, I think, because if they release an RC2, that means no more breaking changes. We'll pin our Next.js dependency to RC2, call it a day. But here's what we're going to do. If Next.js 15 is announced by mid-September, we will smile and we will launch stable immediately after they launch. If Next 15 is going to take longer than mid-September, we're going to release a release candidate. And we're going to say, hey, done. We're going to treat this exactly like it's a stable release, but we're not going to give it the stable label yet because we feel weird about releasing Payload 3 stable while relying on a next release candidate. It's semantics, but semantics are important. You should hear how many deep conversations we have about naming variables. Jake is the king of semantics, and it promotes a lot of internal feist. But yeah, so one way or another, mid-September, we're going to either have a release candidate or we're going to have stable. That's the plan. How much work is missing? We are just going to blast fixes. If you've been on our GitHub repo, if you've opened up issues, you've probably seen that in the last, I'd say, 3 weeks, we have been prioritizing issues significantly more than anything else. We try to triage. As many of you know, we use GitHub issues as only bugs, not feature requests, not support. We use them as bugs. So if there's a bug, we're going to address that, and we're going to focus on that over the next 3 weeks. Documentation is one of our biggest priorities. We're going to significantly approach that. With the new approach for importing components, providers will have server-side props. Yes, they will have server-side props. If they don't, we will make them have server-side props if they are server components. So that's the trick. Is a provider, you would need to be a server component and then render your client provider, but that should be possible. So it just depends on if your custom component has the use client directive at the top. If it doesn't have use client, it will receive the default payload server props, including payload and all that other stuff. We're working with Cloudflare images. Okay. Bo Dank. What a great screen name. You guys are really keeping me on my toes with your screen names. Documentation is up, actually. If you go to the website, Payload 3.0 is documented. It's just consistently under construction. So a lot of this is already significantly progressed. You can change this. Authentication does change a bit with 3.0, but all of this is brand new. Yeah. So you can go here, use this little toggle, get to the beta docs. Okay, lexical. We're going to talk about some things that have launched recently that you may not have seen. And we just want to put a spotlight on this. And the first thing, extending any rich text adapter is really maybe the hardest part of web development. Like, it's really complex. It's just, there's so much to it. And it's such a common thing that you need to do with modern web development. You want to give your editors explicit controls. So we're making it easier. And up until recently, you might have needed to build custom features for lexical, but we've got two things that you can use that will make it so building custom features for lexical is significantly easier. I want to show a little bit of that right now. Here, I think this is running. Let me pull up my old school terminal that I get mocked for all the time. Anybody want to mock me for that? I don't. I like it. You guys can use your fancy terminals all you want. Yep, there we go. Disgusting. Thank you, Elliot.
It is. It's terrible.
I like it. The Matrix, I liked it when I was a kid, but I think it aged poorly. Anyways, so Lexical has some pretty great features. The first one that I want to show is Inline Blocks. And this was built from one of our enterprise customers. They were asking for a feature, and Alessio knocked it out of the park here. He's like, why would we build a custom feature if we could just take what we have for blocks and make an inline block? So this inline block, this is insane. This is so powerful. If you need to, like, let's say you're like an auto blogger and you have like blog posts about new vehicles that are being produced, whatever, I don't know, but you want to reference a price of a vehicle inline, or you want to reference something about that vehicle dynamically. So you can just stick this in line and then you can render it however you want on the front end. This is a block. In Payload, this is a block. I can click edit, and then here's the fields. Include the Twitter reference, choose the user, and then save it. This is just a block. But in Lexical, you can render it in line. You could also choose to render it full width. And so here you go. Here's a full width traditional block right inside of Lexical, but inline blocks are new. So if we show you what that looks like in the config, here we go. Here's the lexical editor. And to add blocks, you can pass inline blocks or you can pass regular blocks. Inline blocks, it's just a block, but it just renders differently. So here's a traditional payload block, right? It's the same block interface that you use elsewhere in Payload, but you can just render it directly inside of Lexical. So it's super easy. And you can also do the same like blocks interface for traditional blocks, but with this, you're going to be able to build custom lexical features without having to build custom lexical features. You just add blocks and that's it. So this is pretty awesome. There's a lot more to it. You can customize every part of this. So you can customize the label that shows up. Like right now, I've got a user reference as like a dummy block. So I click this. Here's the user. I could render dev@payloadcms.com right here if I wanted to. This is you can customize this component. So you can customize those. You can customize everything about these blocks as well. Super powerful. And that's great. So yeah. Yeah, we need to let's make this button wider, Tylen, if you can get on that. This needs to be full screen. I think it's not wide enough. I think Discord is correct. And yeah, I guess we could shrink up the modal width as well. I think that's a pretty good call. Yeah, 64 pixels of padding. I love padding. Everybody else hates it.
Yeah, bring back the big toast too while you're at
big
it.
toast. Yep, big toasts, please. Yeah, we did the toasts are better now. You guys have probably already seen that, but I got voted down on that one. So that's cool. Yeah, the colors are updated too. No more green. It's all the new payload color palette. We're probably not going to backport the toast to payload v2, but if you want help migrating to payload v3, we will help you. That is probably the goal because payload 3 has so much more stuff. And honestly, yeah. Oh, yeah, we also kind of want to darken up everything a little bit for dark mode. Yeah, Martin, software dev. I think we should probably work on the contrast ratios of the toast a little bit. I feel about that, but okay, let's keep going. So let's go. Oh, tables. Alessio, do you want to talk about tables?
Nice, classic. Your mic doesn't work, my guy.
Ooh. Well, we'll give him a minute, but he's a maniac. People have been asking about tables for a while, and that's like insanely hard in any rich text editor. But Alessio did this in one day, and I was like, "What? What happened here?" Yeah, but so this is done. You can use it. He labeled it as experimental table feature because he was scared, but I think we're going to be taking that name away shortly, and it'll just be table feature. So you can add that. Syed, you wanna run the migration script from the 1.0 to 2.0. There is a migration script that you need to run in order to surface your data. It has to do with versions. So if you keep that out, yeah, George, I was blown away when he built this. Alessio, does your mic work? Can you say you're welcome? Nope. I wish I could hear your beautiful voice, your beautiful German voice, but I cannot.
Why is his mic not working? I want to hear Alessio.
I don't know.
Fix it.
Yeah, he can build lexical tables, but he can't fix his mic. That's a Sean joke. That wasn't.
If I were there, I could fix it, but I'm not. So you're out of luck.
Uninstall. All right. So yeah, that's cool. There is a migration. Oh, I see what you're saying. Migration from 2 to 3. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit more involved. We might do a video on that though. I don't know if that would help any of you, but yeah. So this is cool. Let's keep going. Lexical. We're excited. It's going to be stable as well. By 3.0 stable. Oh man, Alessio, I wish that your mic worked because I want you to take the credit for this one. Oh, this is good.
He's trying so hard to fix it. Oh, he left.
Yeah,
He's gonna come back. He's coming back.
He's coming back. Ooh, what do we got?
Does it work?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I didn't change anything, I just rejoined.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy. Guten Morgen. Alessio, why don't you talk about this one?
React compile. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, a few days ago, we received an issue about lexical performance issues. Like someone had, I don't know, like 50 different blocks in one different page. And when you were typing, there was a slowdown. When you clicked on the save button, it took a while to save. And yeah, we could have optimized that. But I mean, React also already gave us a beautiful tool to just enable performance improvements out of the box. So we just slapped React compiler on top of that. And that fixed all our performance issues. You can add hundreds of blocks to your document now, and there's not a single slowdown. It's just very performant now. And since the last version, you'll probably notice a good performance boost just by navigating around the admin panel. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
It's insane. It's like we basically got this all for free with the React compiler, and that gives me great faith in the future of React. I think they're doing the right things. And basically what we do is we just pre-compile the UI library and the lexical library, which if you know anything about the React compiler, basically it just adds automatic memoization to things. And it is fast now, as of last night. Like React compiler, we installed it in our build pipeline. It's fully tested with our E2E test suites. So our E2E runs against built copies of everything. And it's insane. Like the performance boosts are just wild and they're out of the box. So very, very good. You guys will like that. I like it. Cool. Dennis, React compiler is pretty early still, but we asked Meta directly and they actually gave us a review on our pull request. And they said, we use it for Facebook. So if we can use it for Facebook, then you can use it for payload. And then we basically said, okay, that makes sense. We'll use it. So yeah. Krishna, we'll get back. I think I saw you somewhere asked about that. We'll get you some help there. Auth, authentication. Okay, so Dom Duke, you're asking about auth. There are some open source OAuth plugins that can use the Payload 3.0 patterns to inject more capabilities. And with 3.0, we've also added more hooks for the login operations, the refresh token operation, the me endpoint. So the authentication capabilities of Payload have become significantly stronger in 3.0. We are working on ways to make our OAuth plugin more available rather than like locking it behind an enterprise tier, but I will have to get back to you on that. But there are open source versions that do work with 3.0. So there are definitely, the pattern for auth in 3.0 is significantly better. I'll just say that right now. Yeah, so padding, yes, I was making jokes and I love padding and I love white space, but everybody else hates it. So we shrunk everything down. We already did that. If you update the admin panel, I'll show you in a second. It's significantly more condensed now. And yeah, we reduced it. So you got it. By common request. I think it still looks good. I like my spacing, but I'm alone. All right. So here's another cool thing, production migrations. So this is important for especially large companies that build an image for production and they don't want to run their migrations in production, or they don't want to run their migrations in the build process. They want to run them right before the server starts in production. So we gave you a new pattern for this. And I just want to, so like in your CI, when you build, you might not have access to your database connection string. You might want to minimize the time between the build and the deploy. Because if you run migrations in build, it might be 30 minutes for some larger companies before it actually deploys. You want to run those migrations right before it deploys. So this is a new feature. It is documented on the beta docs. You can pass your migrations directly to the Postgres adapter, and it will run them on startup. So I'm going to show you what that looks like really quickly. Now, when you generate, oh, my mouse died. That's great. When you generate a migration, we automatically maintain this index.ts file in your migrations folder. So this right here, if you import this migrations and you pass it to your Postgres adapter, here's the Postgres adapter. If you pass migrations to the prod migrations key, it will automatically execute them for you when the server starts. So this is quite powerful. It will help you. Yes. Cool. I don't really have anything more to talk about on that. It works in the background. You probably shouldn't use this for serverless deployments. It works the same way from, well, actually, MongoDB is less. Yeah, we'll backport that to MongoDB. I think all we did for now was Postgres, but we'll backport it. I just think migrations, because they don't affect like the structure of the database, you might want to maybe run those more like at your own discretion rather than at startup. But I don't see a reason why we couldn't backport it. So we'll do that. Yeah, this is cool. But anyway, so serverless. You probably don't want to do this if you're deploying on Vercel, because payload initializes every time a cold start happens, right? And the logic that happens behind the scenes, payload queries your migrations table and it says, hey, do you have any migrations that you need to run? And that will run them. And you don't want to do that every time the server inits if you're running serverless. Kamel, I would run it right now, personally. I would run Payload 3.0 right now, especially now that we've got beta 79 done. That was the big one. I think from this point on out, it's going to be clearer. It's going to be easier to keep up. Before that, Godspeed. But now I think we're in a good spot. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. It's kind of an under the radar feature, but it's big. Yeah, so don't run it in serverless though. Yeah, Dennis, that's a good point. I don't think you should run this in serverless, but I will say that if you do run them serverless, the first one's going to say, okay, we ran, and then it's going to it's going to show in the database, okay, this migration was run. So if another service picks it up, you could still have a race condition there, but the other one would just fail and it would not be committed. So because migrations are all based on transactions. So yes. Yeah, Billard, I'll get back to the Cloudflare pages in a second. Yes, Louis. It's way easier to import the payload config. We deleted import config. We deleted import without client files. You just import your config now and you're done. So that has changed. Beta docs should be updated. If you find any references to that not being the case, we would like to fix that. So admin UI. Let's fire up the website template, which is something else that I want to show you quickly, but let's do this. Cool. So the admin UI has been reduced. It's a little bit more compact now. You can see that the padding and the spacing and the sizing and the headings are all a little bit smaller. If I go to a very complex page, you'll see that things are nice and tight now. Oh yeah, this is fast now. It's way fast. Live preview. Let's go adjust this media block. Go in here, set it to default width, swap that out, choose another one. Boom. It's like insanely fast, especially with that compiler. So yeah, Jobu, I liked the spacing too, but I think this is the right move. I think it's good. We added a little bit of rounded corners. I know a couple of you were very passionate about hating our blocky components. So we did that. We added rounded corners.
I did not like it at first, but now it's grown on me. The more I use it, especially the condensed spacing. I hated it, but now I like it.
Super modern now with rounded corners. I mean, man, we just fixed all of our UI. People say our UI is ugly. I don't agree, but yeah. So here we go. That's cool. But yeah, so this is super fast. This is I updated this website template. This is the website template. I'll get back to that in a second, but this is super powerful. It shows you everything that you need to build a very big scale website with Next.js, React Server components, redirects, forms, live preview, everything. I'll get back to that in a second, but this is there. Cool. Kurt, thank you. Who else said that? Ariel? Yeah, thank you. I like our UI. I don't want to slap purple on everything or blue. I don't want to do that. I don't want it to look like a unicorn. It's going to be minimal. No orange. Thank you, Paul. You just triggered me. Yeah, I don't want colors. It's never going to have colors besides like the highlight. Anyways, so one thing that maybe flew under the radar is that we have significantly optimized the way that we export things from all of our packages. And this is a huge DX improvement. Everything is just exported in a much simpler way now. So basically, whatever you're trying to import, it's probably just going to come from payload or UI or just like the root, whatever. And it works a lot better for like quickly importing and writing configs and not having to worry about like, where does this import come from? Where does this one come from? Yeah. Fade. I can never remember how to say that, but yeah, I agree. So we've really gone through the gauntlet, simplifying imports and exports. Elliot loves it. Elliot was very pleased. Same with me. I actually hated this, but I never could use my brain enough to articulate it. So cool.
If there's any imports that you find that are not exported, just let us know. We can do that for you.
Yep. we'd like it to be expected. So if you import something and you're like, I hated that, let us know and we'll fix it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Justin agreed. I hated it, but now it is very nice. So you should be happy because I am happy. All right, website template. This one's done. We're going to have some videos that document how to do this. We've got some partnerships that will be pretty cool. You can check this out by running create-payload-app at beta and then choose the website template. It shows you how to build a modern Next.js app from start to finish, fully typed, everything good, redirects, form builder. It's all built with Tailwind because I know you all love that and I hate it, but it's fine. Paul did that. He did a very good job. And he's also, Paul is also working on the e-commerce template, which now has product variations and a bunch more cool stuff. We took the Vercel store and we augmented it with CMS stuff because that Vercel store is fairly straightforward, but ours is the Vercel store kicked up 30 notches. So,
and page revalidation, just to jump in.
Derek, go ahead.
Page revalidation, the website. It doesn't say that on here, but it has it. And I know a lot of people maybe struggle on how to do that or how to implement that. So if you're looking for an example, I would look there.
Yes. Yes. Gollum. Yeah, your name is way easier to pronounce now. What was it before? I can't remember. Yes, we also have a really nice multi-tenant example in the works. Cool. This is a big deal. Paul did a great job with this. He's working on e-commerce now. Yeah, draft preview. Jake, do you want to talk about that?
My point is just that it shows revalidation well. You can save draft posts, revalidate your front end. That's all. It's an old example. We've had it for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, if you know Next.js, then you probably are going to be fine with revalidate. But if you don't, and you want to learn about how to make it work, then you can look at that website template, which shows revalidations. What that means is when you save a page, even if your front end is statically rendered, it will rebuild and then it will be fresh. So you want to have those revalidate hooks there to make sure that everything is up to date. All right, we have a lot more that I'm not going to mention right now. So yes, that template is released. Payload mobile friendly, that we'll continue to focus on. SQLite is released. It's in beta. It works great. You can go use it right now. We tested it with the website template, which has all kinds of craziness, and it is nice. It works with Terso. That is great. 3.0 docs can be found on the website just by clicking on this right here. Go to 3.0 docs. They will, when we release stable, they will become the default docs. But right now, you'll have to click that little toggle up in the top right corner. Yeah. Hey, Pi. Yeah, let's do it. Whenever you want. Okay. Log in with username. Now you don't need to use email anymore. You can use username. You can opt into that. That works great. Custom components are more heavily typed. We have storage adapters that are now explicit, simpler to use. Same with email adapters. Yeah, we do have an email adapter with resend, so you can do that. Terso is supported right now. Works great. Terso is great. We're going to be working on some collaboration with them soon. D1 should also be supported. Aha! Surprise. I think many of you have been wanting this for a very long time, and Dan just loves this. He just loves it. He's been in the trenches for a couple, I'd say for a while. And bidirectional relations in payload, the pattern that we've come up with, I think you're all really going to like it. It's very, very elegant, and it gives a lot more UI for more complex relationship scenarios. And you can also add context fields. So say you have a relationship, a bidirectional relationship from like posts and authors. You can do a bidirectional relationship and then add more fields to that relationship. So, yep, Tylen loves this one. This is what it's going to look like. This is in progress right now, but this is a bidirectional relationship UI. Jake's building this. Tylen designed it. Dan's wiring up the back end. It is super nice. It's many to many, yeah. But it's more powerful than that. I think you're going to like it. basically, like, imagine like this is your relationship field. If it's a bidirectional relation, then you can customize the columns that show up. You can edit any one of these relations. You can paginate. You can do where filters. It is a real table. You can do pagination, whatever you want. And we're also going to backport this new relationship component back to traditional relationship fields. So right now you might know that our relationship field is just a select field, right? But now you can choose which UI to render. Well, shortly you can choose which UI to render for each relationship field. So you can choose like, oh, I want to render this relationship field like a select, but I want to render this one like a table. So this is super cool. We're working on this right now. This is almost done. Backend is pretty much done. We're just working on finishing up the UI. You can self-host on Payload, on Coolify. Yes, you can do that. It is supported with Postgres. With Postgres, it works great. It works with MongoDB as well. It also works with SQLite. We're going to try to obviously support everything for all database adapters. So this, you'll just be able to use it. And we're going to show you how that works soon. But it is very cool. Another one has many upload field. So yes, it works with ISR and Coolify, yes. Auth strategies are simpler. We do have documentation on that, and there are open source OAuth plugins that you can look at that show you how to do that. But yeah, so it has many uploads. One thing about relationships and payload is that they can be, there's 4 types of relations, right? There's single relation. Actually, I'm just going to pull up the docs because that will be easier. Let's go here and relationship. So with relationships, you can do, has one. So that's relation to one thing and has many false. Then polymorphic. So relation to multiple things and has many false. And then has many relation to one thing and then has many true. And then finally has many polymorphic. Relation to many has many true. Now, upload up until this point has always just been has one. But Paul has been building out the backend to be able to support all of these different types of uploads seamlessly. And the backend is done. And the UI, Sarah is working on that now, but this will be what the UI looks like for has many uploads. This will be useful for like galleries and things like that, but you can add more than one image and boom. So that's coming along. Hey, Andrew, welcome. Paul is GOAT. Everybody's a GOAT on this team. This is the GOAT team. Yeah. But yeah, so uploads has many. Cool. Bulk upload, funny that you ask. Because here you go. Jared is literally a maniac. It's kind of like that Alessio table thing where I was like, hey, we need to build this. And then they're like, oh, it's done. So this is coming. Maybe this week. I mean, it's done. We just have to continue to test it. But what that looks like is you just drop a bunch of files on Payload, and then it will show you this UI that you can go through and you can tab through each different file that you've got uploaded and then hit submit, and it will upload everything at the same time. So yes, this is almost done. Bulk upload will be delivered as open source. Everything I've said so far is all open source. Cool. Folder-based media storage is on the way as well. Big uploads on serverless. We're going to make an adapter for the upload, which will upload client side, which will get around that 5 megabyte situation. Nested lists and rich text is supported already. You can do that. Works out of the box. Locked documents while editing. Cool. Pat's finishing this right now. If you edit a document, it will lock it in the database and it will show UI for anybody else that goes to that document. It just kind of pops up a little lock icon. And then when you go to that page, it will say, hey, someone else is editing this. Would you like to take over? Blah, blah, blah. It's coming soon. Serverless database adapters. One of the bigger issues that we have right now is for people that have like runaway connections. And runaway connections on serverless deployments are kind of the nature of the beast. Like, because every instance of a Lambda function that spins up will open up new connections. And to rectify that, we're going to open up new database adapters, 2 of them in specific first. Database Vercel Postgres, which will use HTTP, and then the Atlas Data API, which will use MongoDB Atlas Data API, which will completely fix any serverless connection issues that you might have. So these are almost done already. This is going to be good for those of you that are deploying to Vercel and similar. And Zeta, yes, we will be able to support Zeta as well. Okay, there's a lot more. I'm not going to go through all of it. E-commerce is coming up, localized field UI indicators, publishing individual locales. Ritsu, his first thing is going to be working on the select fields API. He's got a PR already open for that, and we're just going to take that across the finish line. Edge compatibility, once we get these database adapters, we will be edge compatible. So that's cool. Linkus, you should be able to install Sharp and use image resizing and crop on serverless right now. But we will be coming up with a better pattern for that. So yes. Product variations. Yes. Oh, man. Anybody have anything else to add that I've missed?
I don't have anything to add. Great job.
Thank you. Sean? Sean, are you happy?
I'm happy. Good job. You did well.
Cool. All right. 3.0. Let's look at mid-September. That's the goal.
4.0.
Goodbye.